Alright guys, so here is all you'll get in the box. So the spoiler will come wrapped and all this here will come in a bag. You get your clips for your cable management, tape for the spoiler, you have your adhesive for motor and alcohol pads, and then two quick connects there. Alright, so there's two things I recommend you getting. The first one will be a trim tool kit. So this trim tool is from my kit, and then the second one will be a two cable plug, just like this one. And just for information, all this is going to be in the description below. But you could get a plug like this at your local parts store for a couple bucks. All right, the spoiler comes in black, and it's like a texture material. It's not very textured. It will be really easy to sand this off, and then if you want to color match it, it's going to be pretty easy because the material here, I don't know if the camera can make it out. Yeah, it's a little textured, but I'm telling you, this is not as rough as it looks. And I would say this is very easy, will be very easy to sand off, and if you want to color match it, you could do that. Now on the back, the lights are very easy to remove. They're just screws on them. Same all the way down is the same. And the idea is to prep this real good, and it's gonna have adhesive tape on the edge. And where it's gonna go right on top. Just like this. Alright, the first step in the installation process is cable management. Here I'm connecting the pigtails with the harness that is provided. And as you can see, I'm using a table. You have to take your time, lay it all flat, connect all the pigtails, and then use the provided clips. The important thing here is to make sure that the harness is going towards the driver's side and you're putting the harness on top of the lights. You can see the end of the harness goes to the driver's side as you're looking at it from the back. Now the second thing is to use some port 15, and I coated some of the screws here because I have a feeling that these screws will corrode. The next step is to prep the surfaces. I'm using rubbing alcohol and a lint-free towel. Here I'm prepping the top, and I also prepped the spoiler. This is very important here. If you have any dust or anything in between the adhesive, the spoiler would not stick properly. I end up not using the two-sided tape provided and use this automotive super strength molding tape and this ready high performance adhesive promoter. The provider two-sided tape, it was too thin and it was not as sticky enough for the spoiler to stick properly. I contacted American Modified and let them know that they need to get a better two-sided tape and better adhesive promoter. The adhesive promoter that was provided was almost like dry, and it really did not work properly. Once you do the adhesive promoter, it's going to look like this. It's going to be dirty, but you got to make sure you go more than once to get all the contaminants off the spoiler. I also went over with the adhesive promoter on the top. Once you finish prepping all the surfaces, you could go ahead and start putting your two-sided tape all the way around. Make sure you wear gloves here so none of your finger grease get on the adhesive. Once you're done, it's gonna look something like this. I end up not putting adhesive where the hinges go, like on top of the hinges. I thought that that was not going to be necessary. The important thing here is to go over the tape to make sure it's completely flat and there's no air in between the spoiler and the adhesive. Next thing to do is to remove the adhesive wrappers or the protectors. And if you can see, don't remove them, all of them. I only remove the bottom ones next to the hinges on the corners, just to make sure that it will stick first. And then the rest of the other protectors, I only peel back the corner and then fold it over so that when you put it on the top, only the adhesive on the corners, bottom corners, I should say, will stick, and then you could just push over the spoiler, and once it's in position, you could just peel off the rest of the adhesive wrappers or protectors. And here's the end result. There are really no gaps in between, and it's pretty sturdy. As you can see, the cable is going to go right there, and that corner will be driver's side corner. Alright, so next step is to tuck the cable. Use your trim tool to do this. There's a gap around the this part of the top, and you have to be careful because this cable is very thin. So very carefully just tuck it in the gap in here, and then do the same thing down this space right here. And the idea is that it's gonna go in between the body and the top, and it's gonna go here. You gotta remove this three bolts and then lift the top. And once you lift it, just tuck the cable in between the top and the body, right through there. And that's how it's gonna look once you put the top completely down. Alright, so you have your cable right here. We're gonna leave it to the side here, right? And at this point you can install the bolts for your top. I'm not gonna do that just yet. What we're gonna do, you have options here. Right now you can hook up this to anything you want. You can run a cable to a switch or anywhere. What I'm going to do, I'm gonna tab the cable. I'm going to connect this cable to the parking lights, and to do that we'll have to remove this plastic cover here, and we're just going to tap into the parking light, so when the parking lights come on, the spoiler lights come on. So to do that, the first step you will have to do is to remove the access cover here for the tail lamp, and then after that you have to remove the seatbelt cover. Just like that. Just leave it there. And now here comes the tedious part. There's a couple clips around here. The hardest one will be right in this area here. You just have to start pulling out, and these all pull out straight out. You can use your trim tool to get some leverage and put your hands under or behind the plastic trim. Alright, once the this side here pops out, you will only have one clip here, and it's at the bottom. I use my trim tool, put it underneath the pry, and then it will come off, and then you would disconnect the cigarette lighter, and this will be off your way. If you want to connect the spoiler lights to the parking lights, you'll have to look for this cable. It's the one that goes down to the taillight, and what you're looking for is the wire that is white and gray. White and gray, and we're gonna tab, so it would be this wire. We're gonna tab into that wire. The positive will go there, and then for negative, I'll use this ground right here. Okay, so to tap into the wire, you can use the Provider 2 quick connects. I'm not gonna use those. I'm gonna use this kind, but I've always used the splice wire terminals like this one, where you would hook this around the cable, and then you will have one of these to connect your connection. I feel like these are a little bit better than those. Okay, that's done. Now we're just gonna do a quick harness that will be the plug and play connection. So if you want to take your top off, you'll be able to do that, and all the connection will be right here. Alright, you're gonna take your spoiler cable, and you want to leave about 3 inches. You leave about 3 inches, and you're just gonna go ahead and cut it just like that. Okay, so now you gotta split the cables just a little bit, right? So that's good enough right there. Okay, so now grab your 2-wire plug, and what we're gonna do is we are going to connect the male side to your spoiler. Okay, so we're gonna splice these 2 cables together. So in this case will be red to red and brown to black, and this part of the harness will sit on top right here, and I'm going to show you how you could keep it secured right here using the provided clips. So you're not going to be using all these on the spoiler, so we're going to reuse some of the leftover, and we're going to put it right here, and that's going to keep it secure, so that when you have to remove the top, the only thing you have to do is remove this plug together with the other connections. This side will stay with the body, and you will be able to remove the top easily. You can use one of these terminals. I like these terminals, but I'm not really a fan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use solder, and I'm going to solder the connection together. And to seal the connection, we'll use heat shrink tubing. Alright, so the first step will be to peel the cable back on both sides. You use your pliers or your wire stripper. Once you have the wire strip like this, get your connector, do the same thing. Alright, so we got the wire stripped on the connector side, and we have the wire strip here on the connector side too. Alright, so now do not forget your heat shrink tubing. So in this case, this is pretty long, so I'm going to cut it in half, and I'm going to use it for both connections. Okay, right here. So just make sure you don't forget your tubing. Put it on either side. Put it on the connector side first. Alright, and then what you're gonna do is just gonna marry or connect both together. a twist. I'm only going to be using a little solder just so that the connection is secured. Okay, ever so slightly. You just use a little bit. Wait until it dries. Once it dries, check the connection, which is very hard. And then once we're done, use the heat shrink. Once you do the soldering, grab your heat shrink tubing and use a lighter or heat source. I won't use a heat gun because this is too close to other things, so I'm just going to use a lighter to do the heat shrink tubing. Okay, and just like that, you got a secure connection here. So now you're just gonna do the same thing to the other wire. Now, you remember the cable we cut? Now you can make this shorter, and basically you're gonna do the same thing with the female end. We're gonna make a connection for this side, and then once the positive will go to the tap here to the parking lights, there is a good ground right here. So I'm gonna use this ground, and it's gonna look just like this. All right, so now we just gotta do the other end. I'm gonna put a ring terminal, and then the terminal for the parking lights onto the body harness. Once you get it all together, it's gonna look something like this. All right, so I'm using a 10 millimeter to remove the knot. Put up your ring terminal, put it through, and just put it back. Now grab the other side and put it onto the harness here, the body harness. There we go. Once you have your connections done, go ahead and plug it in. All right. And now, before we put everything back together, everything is connected. The lights, they should work. So let's go ahead and test. All right, now this harness here, we have to clean it up now. And how we're gonna do this is using some tester tape. And I'll put a link in the description below. This is gonna make it look almost like factory. But the terminal where it's gonna go right here. All right, and this is what's gonna look like. So now what I'm going to do, since this is the side that's gonna stay with the top, I'm gonna go ahead and use one of the provider clips and put it right here. And so that way, that side of the harness is gonna stay with the top. Press it down for at least 30 seconds. I still had quite a few left, about 3 of them left, so I'm gonna use 2. One for the end of the harness here, and the other one for the where the cable comes in. All right, so this is what's gonna look like. Now I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna wrap this part of the harness with tester tape. Okay, everything is back together, all the plastics and everything, and this is what's going to look like. Just remember that the cables all go through the channel right here, and when you want to take the top off, you just disconnect, you know, all the connections. This side will stay with the top, and that's pretty much it. So as you can see on the outside, the cable is not visible at all. It's all tucked in here, and yeah, it just goes underneath and goes in between the seal of the top and the body, and then yeah, you stop that connection right there. So this is as close as possible you could do it to factory. Now these are my final thoughts though. I wish that the spoiler will hook up to the bolts right here, so you have a better secure connection. Somehow would, you know, maybe a bracket, you just take the window off and then it will hook up to this here, other than using adhesive. I think if they make some connection that will bolt on to this here, will be a little better. Okay, the last step will be just to test it again. So let's go ahead and turn on the lights. So there you have it. Some of the tools and accessories and things that I use on this video are linked in the description below. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I think this is a wrap up for this video. If you have any questions, please comment below. Until then, I'll see you next time.